I've been working on trying to get it to sound good. So let's play a song, see how it goes. Mother, she's just a stranger. She's young and it's raining out. She's down at the hotel. Thought I'd go back and check her out. I just checked her in, but there's something about her I can't figure out. Like she's on the run from somewhere, with something she can't talk about. Mother, she was a nice girl. We had dinner, she ate like a bird. Though I don't know why they use that expression. Birds eat a lot, I've always heard. We talked about taxidermy and about you, 'cause she overheard. But you don't have to worry, Mother. I told her you were harmless, it was only words. And don't it keep getting harder, living here year after year, since they built that new highway. Only the lost come here. Guess I'll go like the sign, wash the shower curtain clear, here on our highway to nowhere. Mother, you remember that girl I told you about in the motel room? She fell down in the shower. Now there's all this blood and I don't know what to do. She's the first guest we've had check-in since. I don't remember when, do you? And I had to drown her car and all of her belongings too. And don't it keep getting harder, living here year after year, since they built that new highway. Only the lost come here. Guess I'll go like the sign, wash the shower curtain clear, here on our highway to nowhere. And Mother, I don't know what to do. I can't simply leave her there. She gave me a different name than the one she wrote on the register. She left the water running. Now the tiles are in need of some repair. But they'll never take you, Mother. Do you know someone can just disappear? And don't it keep getting harder, living here year after year, since they built that new highway. Only the lost come here. Guess I'll go like the sign, wash the shower curtain clear, here on our highway to nowhere. On our highway to nowhere. Well, I guess that's my official sound check. Anybody there? Tell me how it sounds if you don't mind. Hey, March. Does it sound a little better than it has the last couple times? I got very frustrated and thought of not doing this at all. But Nicole helped me do a sound check, and we got it to where it sounds okay to me. At least I think it does. So let's let it roll. I got afraid to where I was afraid to tell anybody I was playing one of these things. I got just so frustrated with it. I usually, include it in my messages to people, but I didn't want to have people sign on and then have it go be lousy. So here we are. Vincent van Gogh made a painting of Dr. Gachet in 1890, just before he died. The doctor didn't buy it. In fact, Vincent van Gogh never sold a painting while he was alive. It was 15 years later when Vincent's brother Theo sold the painting for a price that broke his heart, to a local art collector who sold it some years later to a genuine dealer of art. Now the painting Van Gogh couldn't sell has become too valuable for anyone to ever see again. Sterilized, humidified, safe from all the prying eyes, wouldn't Van Gogh be surprised to see his work so highly prized today? Or maybe he'd turn over in his grave. Vincent van Gogh rarely traveled. He never saw America. Spent his whole life painting bridges and hay on farms. He didn't go to cocktail parties or do commercial endorsements or hit the town with starlets on his arm. But his painting crossed some borders, and the dealer made a profit when he sold it to a German businessman who took it to America when he emigrated just before the Holocaust began. Now the painting Van Gogh couldn't sell has become too valuable for anyone to ever see again. Humidified and climatized, safe from all the prying eyes, wouldn't Van Gogh be surprised to see his work so highly prized today? Or maybe he'd turn over in his grave. The businessman's estate was liquidated, and a corporate oil executive and his wife bought the painting for an investment and took a tax deduction when they loaned it to a museum all his life. Then America changed its tax laws, and the oil executive's widow couldn't deduct it, so she had to change her plan. She put the doctor up for auction. It sold for $50 million to a certain businessman from Japan, who took it home to his place where he designed an airless case, and the painting could be safely stored away for some future billionaire to see. But I believe that you and me have seen the last of Dr. Gachet, 'cause the painting Van Gogh couldn't sell hey, Fred Pullman. That was timely. You coming on just as I was singing that song about Vincent van Gogh. I didn't know you were there when I started it. It was just coincidence. But for those of you out wondering what I'm talking about, Fred's a longtime friend of mine who's been writing a show about Vincent van Gogh. Well, we're not likely to have a lot of people on this show tonight because I didn't mention it to hardly anybody. I was afraid it would sound like horrible, so I made a point of kind of doing it incognito. But I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad you folks are here too. Thanks for signing on and sharing this with me. There's a pause in the traffic. The first rays of the sun blaze in the window. It's the day. And I sit in this room 3,000 miles from home, watching the light reflect on the clay. Time to turn the flame around, time to burn the white shroud, time to look beyond the gray. Now that the rain has gone, now that the rain has gone away. Once I was a slave worker, a fact in the machine. By night I dreamed I went to play. Now I walk past that window. Every day I know my dream comes closer till it comes to stay. Time to line the edge to stars, time to travel by the hearts, time to say we'll meet again another day. Now that the rain has gone, now that the rain has gone away. Once I was a master, had a vision in my eye. No one's freedom mattered in the balance weighed. If you'd come as a flower, I'd have made you bloom each time, in a garden where you'd never own a space. Time to treat you like a babe, time to dig for you no grave, time to let your blossoms fall where they may. Now that the rain has gone, now that the rain has gone, now that the rain has gone away. Well, that's one I haven't played in a while. You know, sometimes you write songs and you don't play them for a while, but doesn't mean you don't like them any less. Or or whatever I'm at. Church bells ringing in the heart of town. Long lines of people with their black clothes on. Schools are closed and the flag is low. People crying everywhere you go. I bet many can't be moved to hear the church bells ring. They look into their neighbor's eyes and wouldn't change a thing. Black limousines, flags flapping on the fenders. The man who brought this on has no defenders. The whole world mourns the deed he's done. Sadness sings in the candlelit town. I bet many can't be moved to hear the choir sing. They look into the parents' eyes and wouldn't change a thing. A flower floats down on the breeze like an angel in the rain. Non-believers on their knees, struck silent by the pain. There'll be promises to the future. This time things aren't gonna change. It doesn't matter who can't see it. It doesn't matter who's to blame. I bet many can't be moved to see these souls take wing. They watch the children laid to rest and wouldn't change a thing. Okay. Sounds good in Philly. Hello, David Emmy. You know, I've had a very frustrating time the last couple of times I've done this. Once my camera died in the middle of a song, another time the sound turned into like I was singing through a sardine can. So I'm glad to see that it seems to be working tonight. I really do enjoy sharing my music with people, but it's very frustrating when it stinks in quality. What's the name of that last song? It's called Many Can't Be Moved. It's on Later That Night, my CD Later That Night. which has been out of print for a while, but I just have a delivery coming of them in the next few days. So if anybody's interested in getting a CD with that song on it, you can get it on either of my websites, rodmacdonald.com or .net. It's called Later That Night. Very good CD. Actually, came out in 2014, and in January of 2015, the local newspaper here in South Florida, the Palm Beach Post, named it the best local CD of the year in any genre of music, which I thought was pretty amazing. And I think it is a good CD. Has a lot of good songs on it. In fact, let's play another one. Well, I see my Facebook screen is just frozen up. I spoke too soon, I guess. I wonder if that's happened on YouTube as well. Let's see. Nope, still working on YouTube. If you're on Facebook and you're frustrated with the skips, well, you know what I mean by frustrated. My typing's not so good. Somebody shot a hole in the Bible. They blew it apart from the back. They must have snuck up behind it to leave it in pieces like that. Now whenever you reach for the good book to tell you how things gotta be, somebody shot a hole in the Bible. That's how it seems to me. Somebody shot a hole in the Bible. You know, I just blanked out on the words of this and got lost in the middle of this song. Good. You know, I get distracted so much by all this technical stuff. Sorry about that. Think for a second here. Ah, yeah. Okay, let's take this one from the top. Somebody shot a hole in the Bible. They blew it apart from the back. They must have snuck up behind it to leave it in pieces like that. Now whenever you reach for the good book, you gotta quit where the words fall apart. Somebody shot a hole in the Bible. I don't even know where to start. Somebody shot a hole. Now whenever you try to read it to tell you how things got to be, you pass the begetting and the killing, and the soldiers all drown in the sea. Then you get to the part where it tells you everything everybody has to do. Somebody shot a hole in the Bible. Right there you can see right through. Now he was just walking down the sidewalk, thinking there was no one around, when out of the cloud came a message. Behold, I'm standing my ground. Who knows That's why the shots were first fired. Who knew why the gun was at hand? Somebody shot a hole in the Bible. Please don't let it happen again. Somebody shot a hole in the Bible back when you were out on the road. 40 days and nights of rain followed till the banks on Wall Street overflowed. When it came time for white doves to come calling and the sun to start shining again, somebody shot a hole in the Bible. I don't know how this is gonna end. Yeah, somebody shot a hole in the Bible. I don't know how this can end. Well, let's play another one in that key. I keep snagging this nail on something. Sorry about that. In the next generation to come down the line, I believe it was a year 2039, they asked, "Hey Mom, what was the pandemic? I've been hearing about it in school, and I bet it was something you'd never want to see again." Mom sat down, shook her head, and said with a grin, "Oh, the pandemic, wasn't that a time?" "Well," said Mom, "I was just in my teens. Your daddy was trying to get in my jeans. We couldn't travel, so we married on Zoom. The preacher in Maine, our parents back home. Streamed the first kiss, had colored balloons. Baked our own cake, went on our honeymoon without leaving the room. Yeah, the pandemic, wasn't that a time?" "Well," said Mom, "and who could forget? The numbers kept climbing and no one protected their faces till thousands were gasping for air, and businesses shutting down everywhere. And speaking of time, every now and then you'd hear the news of a trusted friend you knew you'd never see again." There was no toilet paper on the shelf. You couldn't go to work, so we kept to ourselves. Took walks in the moonlight when the curfew was gone, and I've never felt closer to anyone. And there was this guy who was like a big joke. Said no one's really dying, it's just a cruel hoax. But he was no friend of mine. Yeah, the pandemic, wasn't that a time? It was a quiet time to reflect, said Mom. We had 600 channels in the living room. It's amazing to me to remember today there was never anything on anyway, except for live concerts. There were these guys I know, came home every Sunday with a different show. somehow it eased my mind. Yeah, the pandemic, wasn't that a time? And in the midst of it all, people took to the streets when an unarmed black man killed by police was becoming too normal. And for the first time, the cops were made to pay for the crime. And speaking of crime, there were women and men who thought they'd overturn the government. Well, they ended up doing time. Now you knew it was coming to an end and soon, when you turned on the news, and every afternoon there was a shooting in a mall or a store. So many thoughts and prayers you couldn't take anymore. It was easier to buy a gun than to vote. We had to dig deep to keep the ship afloat for the next generation to come down the line. That's what Mama said back in 2039. Yeah, the pandemic, wasn't that a time? Oh, the pandemic, wasn't that a time? Okay. Well, I finally made it through a song without blowing the lyrics. That one's a pretty new one, I suppose. That might be why. It's working on Facebook. Good. I'm looking. Nail it. Mike Naylor. Good to see you. So, no requests so far. I guess I could take one here and there if anybody's got anything they want me to try to struggle through here. I've been working on a project that's going to surface on my website in a few days. Back in about 1981 or so, I met a fella up in Buffalo, New York named Michael Meldrum. He was a really good pal to me for quite a few years, and used to bring me up to Buffalo 2 or 3 times a year and have me play 2 or 3 shows. And I was hanging out with him one time up in Buffalo when he asked me if I would make a special recording for him of some of the songs that I had written. And this was at a time when I hadn't yet made my first album, No Commercial Traffic, so I didn't have any recordings at all. But he had a very specific set of songs he wanted me to do. And then I also, and I was hanging out a lot in Chicago at the time, as well as in Buffalo and in New York City. And so I was living in an apartment where the guy whose apartment it wasn't there a lot of the time. He was, in fact, gone for 2.5 years at one point out in the South Pacific doing doctoral research. But he had a reel-to-reel tape deck, and I recorded all these songs for my friend Michael Meldrum and some others, too. Sometimes even just as soon as I wrote something, I'd record it and then forget about it completely. And his son, Daniel, sent it to me about a few months ago, and I started listening to it, and I realized this isn't bad. You know, I kind of like it. It's got the very first recording of Sailor's Prayer ever made. And it's got an early version of the song True Love that appears on Tale of Two Americas, and The Unearthly Fire that ends up on No Commercial Traffic later. The version of Sailor's Prayer actually has a couple different lyrics than the ones everybody else sings. Probably the way I originally wrote it. I think what happened with Sailor's Prayer is that if so many people started doing it, and they learned it from each other and not from me, that they started rewriting the lyrics, and I started learning their versions of it. But anyway, it'll be on my website in a few days, and I think it's kind of nice. I sent it to a couple friends of mine just to see if they thought it was good. And they both raved about it, said they thought it was quite good. I think the singing is very good. It's one of those things where I was alone in an empty apartment, and there was no furniture in the room that the tape deck microphone was in, so it has that nice live resonance, really nice feeling to it. And I was listening to it and I thought, this is actually kind of good. It's a very honest recording of the songs. And it also intrigued me because there were about 4 or 5 songs that I'd never recorded anywhere else. 3 or 4 of them I don't even remember at all. They were almost new to me when I heard them. And there were a couple that I remembered. Oh yeah, God, I remember that song. Like there's one that goes back to about 1974, 75. I remember it because I played it a couple times, and this woman came up to me at a gig and asked if she could sing it. And I said, sure, knock yourself out, you know. And she began singing it around Chicago, did a beautiful version of it. I'll have to learn it again sometime. I listen to it now and I think it's kind of sophomoric writing, but that doesn't really change things all that much, I suppose. You know, I don't know if you ever think like I do, but I do a lecture course in which I examine the careers of a lot of people. And it's very often the case that their first, most innocent, naive songs are the ones that the public loves for the rest of their lives. And the ones that they think are more sophisticated are not the ones that remain. I mean, for example, would a 35-year-old person write Blowin' in the Wind? I kind of doubt it. I think it would have to be written by somebody very young and still idealistic. But anyway, let's do a request. Hi, Mike. Let's get this note right here. Well, since I'm going to play this as a request, I hope you folks will sing along at home. Seems like there ought to be a way to look each other in the eye, to see we're all in this together, and put all thoughts of victory aside. Seems like there ought to be a way to turn some fear into trust. No matter what you say, there has to be a way. Every living thing is counting on us. Seems like there ought to be a way to separate the freedom from the flag, to see what's real in the illusion. Sometimes a beauty walks around in rags. Seems like there ought to be agreement. We would rather live in peace than fight. No matter what you say, there has to be a way. Every living thing is on our side. Seems like if there's a God in heaven, we must have been put here to get along, to see that life is for the living, to leave alive the living when we're done. Seems like this ship out on the ocean must fly on the wing of the dove. No matter what you say, there has to be a way. Every living thing is reason enough. Just like this ship out on the ocean must fly on the wing of the dove. No matter what you say, there has to be a way. Every living thing is reason enough. Well, you know, if you've heard me do that song live, you know, I usually make sure everybody sings along with me on it. And doing it by myself, it's like a 2-minute song. I'm doing a lecture this week on Harry Belafonte. You probably remember Harry Belafonte. He had the Banana Boat song in the 1950s, and Matilda, she take me money and run Venezuela. And it's funny because he made this big deal out of making everybody in the audience sing along with him through the years. And there's versions of Matilda that are like 15 minutes long, as he makes, you know, this section of the audience and then that section and then the balcony and then the second balcony, and everybody sing along with him. And when I first was looking at these videos, I thought, you know, why is he doing this? I guess he just really wants to. But it turns out there's this like brief mention of it in an interview with him that I found. He said that very early in his career, Paul Robeson came to him. Now, you may or may not know who Paul Robeson is, but in case you don't, so this story will make sense, let me tell you who he was. He was a black man, very large, very good looking, had a beautiful bass voice, was trained in church, learned some opera. And in the 1930s and 40s, he was a monstrous star in the United States, star of many, many movies and a tremendous amount of hit records. And he got fed up with having to play, you know, tribal Indian chiefs, tribal African chiefs in Africa wearing a tutu running around in the jungle and stuff, and stopped doing movies. But he continued singing. And then after World War II, he went to Russia. And the Soviet government took him on a tour, and they treated him like he was this, you know, dignitary from like the head of the world or something like that. And they treated him really wonderfully and introduced him to all the finest people in the Soviet Union, and they brought him around to the small number of African American people that were there at the time, and introduced him, and they all smiled and they shook hands and everything. And he came back to America, and he said that blacks were freer in the Soviet Union than they were in the United States. And this immediately put him in the crosshairs of all the McCarthy-era right-wingers. And they actually stoned him at Peekskill. He's the guy that the famous stoning incident at Peekskill was about in 1949. Well, early in Belafonte's career, he says Robeson came to him, and he said to him that if you can get the people to sing your songs with you, they'll want to know who you are. It was all he said. But Belafonte really wanted people to know who he was. They wanted them to know that he was a forthright supporter of civil rights. He, for example, is the guy who bailed Martin Luther King out of jail on numerous occasions, and was so deeply involved in ending apartheid in South Africa that Bishop Desmond Tutu flew to the United States to speak at his Kennedy Center honors. And that's all he said, but he said that's what Robeson said to him, and that's why he made it such a big deal to get everybody to sing along with him on songs like the Banana Boat song and Matilda. And none of those songs were political. Very, very few of them had any political content whatsoever. Some of his later songs had a kind of veiled political content, and when he sang about the fire and the earth and do we know who we are and all that kind of stuff. But his songs were not explicitly political the way that one there is, for example, like Every Living Thing. I don't know if this interests any of you folks at all, but it really intrigues me, and it's something that I have been doing with my lecture courses is to kind of try to get to the heart of why these famous performers do the things that they do, what motivates them to make certain things an important part of their outlook towards their profession. And that was what made him do that. I just thought it was pretty interesting. Let's do a love song. You who sleep beside me here in this quiet night, do you ever wonder how you first came in sight? The bells of the cathedral were dying in the wind. You looked at me and smiled across your crowd of friends, and I felt a recognition, not of someone from the past, but of a true beauty that was meant to last. And I wanted to speak to you, or even say your name and get it right. You who sleep beside me here in this quiet night, you who sleep beside me here in this quiet life, do you ever wonder how you became my wife? The room was lit by just a candle. Over by the bed, you walked across the room, smiled and turned your head, and I felt a recognition, not from another time, but of the meaning of the words, will you be mine? And I wanted to hold you, safe from every sorrow or strife. You who sleep beside me here in this quiet life, now you who sleep beside me here in this quiet place, do you ever wonder at the futures we face? At the sound of thunder, I look for shelter for two, and I walk through this world knowing I'll come to rest with you. And I feel a recognition, not a habit of right or wrong, but a feeling of arriving at the place where I belong. And I whisper I love you and leave you in your own state of grace. You who sleep beside me here in this quiet place, you who sleep beside me here in this quiet life. Well, I should take a minute and just tell the folks of you that are here, thanks so much for being here. And here's what is on my schedule in the coming months. I'm doing 2 concerts in the New York area in a couple of weeks. The People's Voice Cafe on February 17, and the Turning Point at 4 p.m. on the 18th, Sunday. Both of those are going to be with Mark Dan. And I'll be back up in the Northeast towards the end of May. If you're in upstate New York, I'll be playing Ithaca on May, I think it's the 17th or 18th. It's a Saturday night. I guess it's May 18th. And I think the 19th is the Dylan Fest at Stony Brook, the Long Island Museum. And then I'm also playing the Argyle Brewery in Cambridge, New York, outside of Albany, on the 28th, I think it is, or the 29th. And the Wednesday night. And the Hyde Park Public Library on the 1st, and a private house concert on the 2nd, but it's going to be streamed by way of Zoom, so if you'd like to watch it, drop me an email sometime and I'll get you the link. I don't have it yet, so no hurry. If you're in North Carolina, I'm playing, or in South Carolina, I'm playing Bluffton on June 8th. And down here in South Florida, I'm playing the Emerald Concert Series on March 4th in Hollywood, Florida, which is a really great series. It has a lot of major touring artists like Susan Werner and people like that. Quite an honor to be headlining one of their concerts at the end of March. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Have some local shows coming up in South Florida. My calendar is usually pretty much up to date at rodmacdonald.com. Just click on calendar or events, and you can see what's going on. Trying to think if I can remember the words from any of the new stuff that's just come in from Chicago. Probably not. You know, a lot of songs out there. Well, let's see. No more requests? You folks are making it tough on me tonight. I should make sure we're still functioning over here on YouTube. Yep, good. Okay. Well, you know, there's a song of mine that I have not played very much that's on my new CD, Rants and Romance. But I notice it's getting played a lot on the radio. A lot of radio programmers have been doing it. I really ought to learn it. So how about I take a whack at it right now? I'm the guy who is always gonna be someone, and I'm the guy who always knew which way to go, and I'm the guy who is always gonna make a stand. Oh, but all I am is the king of tomorrow. Hey, I'm the guy who's gonna show you how it's done, and I'm the guy who knew everything there was to know. Yeah, I'm the guy who is always there to make you smile. Yeah, but all the while I'm the king of tomorrow. And if tomorrow never comes, I'll keep on learning today to give you all my love in every way, 'cause I'm the guy who is always gonna show you how, and I'm the guy who couldn't wait to take it slow, and I'm the guy who didn't get a thing done today. Yeah, but that's okay. I'm the king of tomorrow. Yeah, I'm the guy who would give you everything that you desire. And I'm the guy who always dream more than you know. And I'm the guy who will never give up this fight. Yeah, but that's alright. I'm the king of tomorrow. Yeah, but that's alright. I'm the king of tomorrow. All right. Well, that wasn't what I wanted to do. I'm trying to get to the comments over here. Oh, that's on YouTube. No wonder I can't get to them. There we are. It keeps sticking my welcome to tonight's live stream comment in the comment. You know, I don't know how many. I think I put it in there once myself. But hey, what can I tell you? You know, I was listening to the news this week a lot, and the Republican Party in Congress, which has been squealing for years that the Democrats aren't doing anything about immigration, negotiated a border bill that would deal with a lot of the problems at the border, and also fund Ukraine in its war to survive against Russia more, send some more money to the Ukraine. And after negotiating it, the Republicans have announced this week that they don't want to have it. And the only thing that changed was that Trump asked them not to agree to it. He basically moved the goalposts and added a whole bunch of new conditions to it. And one of the less astute Republican congressmen actually said in an interview that they don't want to do anything to take away one of Trump's major campaign issues. In other words, they don't want to actually solve the border problem. They want it to just continue to be there so that Trump can continue to scream about it. But I read it differently. I mean, I think that's all probably true. But I also think that by attaching aid to Ukraine to the border bill, Trump has guaranteed that his good pal Vladimir Putin will keep on being able to bomb the heck out of Ukraine without the United States giving Ukraine any resources to defend itself with. And I mention this because I have not seen in a single news account of what's been going on that mentioned. They've all the reporters, they're not naive. They've all said that they've even got Republicans saying this outright, that they backed away from the border bill because Trump asked them to. But they don't ask why Trump asked them to. They assume it's because he wants to continue campaigning on that issue. But is that really why? Is it perhaps true that this is a debt to Vladimir Putin that he has to pay? And we, of course, have little to say about it. As in all things in the Trump universe, it's only about him. It has nothing to do with anybody else. It doesn't even really involve the Republican members of Congress. They're just doing what they think they have to do to remain popular. But they are not really involved in the decision-making process. The decision-making process is all about what's good for Donald Trump and nothing more. I don't know. It just struck me as strange. And no doubt nothing will get done once again. And then the Republicans will be running in the election saying that the Democrats didn't do anything about the border. Well, I'm way over my time here. I should wrap this up. I've got my daughter has got school at gets up for school at 6:30 in the morning. Thank you, folks, for listening. You can email me if you want to at rodmacd@aol.com. You can also just send me a message here on Facebook. I presume that anybody who's on this page is a friend or at least able to get me a message. If you want to communicate with me, and if you're looking for CDs, they're all at rodmacdonald.com. Downloads also, all MP3 downloads are there. Some of the other things, the bootleg archive stuff is easier to get at rodmacdonald.net. And thanks for any donations. I appreciate it. Well, I've been thinking I should play this one tonight. How about let's do it? This has been a pretty mellow show. Whenever we measure life's greatest treasures, the simplest of pleasures is often most high. To hold and to cherish a love that won't perish, and to walk in the highlands with you by my side. Well, I remember the 1st of November, the frost on the heather, I followed the tide west through the highlands. Our ship sailed in silence, and never the highlands again have I spied. And how many lifetimes I've wandered since I took adventure, my bride. How many good lives squandered, victory and justice denied. At the end of my story, come fortune or glory, or only to answer for blindness or pride. If there's a heaven, one thing I believe in, I'll walk in the highlands with you by my side. And how many lifetimes I've wandered since I took adventure, my bride. How many good lives squandered, victory and justice denied. End of my story, come fortune or glory, are only to answer for blindness or pride. If there's a heaven, one thing I believe in, I'll walk in the highlands with you by my side. I'll walk in the highlands with you by my side. Well, thanks everybody for sticking with me, and I wish you all a very good week and month and whatever. I'll see you again sometime, and keep an eye on my website. Next time I'm going to do one of these, I'll announce it a week or two ahead of time and post a notice about it. I'm not sure what's going to happen during January. I got a bunch of things coming up, getting kind of busy during the season here in Florida. But it's been a great pleasure singing for you tonight. And I hope it's been a pleasure for you too. Good night, everybody. I'll see you soon, I hope.